dedicated to looking at the very special blessings that animals are in our lives. Not only are we going to bless the animals that are actually gracing our lives with their presence, but we are also going to examine the overall blessings that animals bring to us as human beings. It's our intention this morning to gather in honor of all creatures, great and small, those present today and those who have transitioned to another plane of existence, because both of them are divine expressions of the one in our homes. So what do we do in animal blessing? You know, I, like most pet owners, believe that animals have souls. And the late James Herriot says it this way. He says, if having a soul means being able to feel love and loyalty and gratitude, then animals are better off than human beings, right? And I don't know about you, but I know there's a lot of parents in the room, and when I was parenting my daughter, I wanted to make sure that she had a lot of experiences with animals in her life. And on her 3rd birthday, we actually had a Little Mermaid themed party, and so each of the children got to take home a little goldfish in a bowl. And I had to ask the parents permission before I sent these experiences home with them. But they all agreed, and so because it was Kelsey's 3rd birthday, she got 3 of them. She got 3 goldfish in a bowl. And thankfully she could not get count, because on about the 4th day, one of the goldfish did what goldfish tend to do, and it died. And Kelsey didn't seem to notice. 2 was about the same as 3. Because then there were 2. And not too much later, much to our dismay, the second one kind of went belly up too. And again, Kelsey didn't notice the difference. But alas, one morning, I awoke to see the 3rd and final goldfish kind of swimming a little lopsided. You know how they do? And I thought I'd better prepare her for the inevitable empty bowl. And so I brought her over, and I showed her that the little goldfish seemed to be swimming a little sideways and different than it normally did. And I explained to her that to me the fish looked sick, and that it probably would not be or may not be alive when she got home from preschool that day. And I had emphasized that we had loved and cared for the fish the best way we knew how, but that part of loving an animal was letting it go when it was time to go. And she really didn't seem too concerned about the whole thing. And I was right. When we arrived home that afternoon, the goldfish had passed, just kind of floating. And I wanted her to have room to kind of feel whatever feelings that she might have at age 3. So we just kind of stood by the bowl for a little bit. And then Kelsey squeezed my hand, and she looked up at me, and she said something like this. She's like, "Don't worry, Mommy." She said, "The fish just went back to spirit." Now, the remarkable thing about that encounter was that we never discussed death yet. We hadn't talked about that yet. We were not particularly on a spiritual path back then either. So I don't know if she discussed the sick fish with her teacher that day, and the teacher was kind of helping her. I have no idea. But somehow she had landed on some really important wisdom that all of us need to know. Because you see, I agree with my little baby daughter. I agree that animals come from spirit. They come into our lives and bring the essence of spirit into our home, and then they return to a less physical form of spiritual existence. So many metaphysicians believe that animals come into our lives for a mutual evolving. In other words, your animal is serving your consciousness spiritually, and you are helping them to evolve as well. And on the spiritual realm, teaching is always mutual. You know, it may look like we are teaching our animals, but in fact, our animals are actually teaching us lots of different things. So perhaps your animal teaches you to be fully present in this given moment. You know, the animals here are just totally right here, right now, interested in what's going on right here. And sometimes as human beings, our minds go lots of places, don't they? Doesn't necessarily sit right here in this room right now. Or perhaps your animal is teaching you to find joy in every little thing and delight in every little thing. Whether it's the little beam of light reflecting on the ceiling, or it's the little bitty frog that's out by the pool, or that used to be out by the pool. It has been delighted in, I can tell you that. Perhaps your animal is teaching you to forgive instantly and completely any human misstep. You know, how many times have you accidentally literally stepped on your pet, and they yell, and then they don't think about it again, they're just right back with you again. They just forgive instantly whatever missteps that you might have. Perhaps your pet is teaching you to dig until you find what you want. Dig until you find what you want. You know, I can tell you that little Darby over there, she will just keep looking for the thing in the bottom of the basket. She has a whole basket of toys, but she has in her mind which one she wants, and she will not be satisfied until she gets to the very bottom and finds the one that she wants. So that's a lesson for us, isn't it? And I could do a whole lesson on just that one thing that animals teach us. Perhaps your pet is teaching you to be wise enough to know that when there is water, get wet. When there's space, run like the wind or stretch luxuriously. You know, take up the space that you're in and just be in your body. Perhaps your pet is teaching you to let people look you in the eye. Let people touch you and feed you and be with you. Maybe your animal's teaching you that today. But mostly our animals teach us to love deeply, and very importantly, to allow yourself to be loved. So let us honor our sacred teachers today. So to begin our blessing experience this morning, I want to continue creating our altar. Tim's going to kind of noodle some music underneath, and I would like for us to recognize that all major religions of the world praise creation and acknowledge that humankind depends on nature for its own survival. They also teach compassion and love of all living creatures. And nearly all religions recognize the inherent value of animal life and the need to avoid animal suffering. As long as there have been humans and animals sharing the planet, they have been in sacred relationship with one another. As we open the altar this morning, I will be sharing how animals are recognized in religious texts and scriptures, and we can honor the universal reverence for all creatures. And as we go, I'm going to ask Michelle to light a candle to honor the faiths around the world. So the first candle we light will be for Hinduism. In this Eastern religion, nature is held sacred. Human beings are not considered more significant than any other living thing, and animal souls are the same as human souls. All are progressing to higher levels of consciousness in each lifetime. The Bhagavad Gita, verse 5:18, proclaims that a self-realized soul is able to understand the equality of all beings. Therefore, Hinduism stresses doing what is beneficial to all creatures. We honor the faith of the Hindu people. Next, we light a candle for all forms of Buddhism. Buddhism is based upon a universal idea of compassion for all life. A man is holy if he has reverence for all living creatures. Buddhism stresses that sentient beings are subject to rebirth, and consciousness is interconnected in all living beings. We honor the faith of Buddhist culture. Next, we light a candle on our altar for Judaism. The Hebrew scriptures teach that God made covenants with animals as well as humans, and Judaism embraces the Hebrew mandate to prevent the sorrow of living creatures. There is a deep reverence for life, and animals, like people, must rest on the Sabbath. We honor Jewish law. Next, this candle is for the sacred teaching of Islam. Islamic writings promote kindness to all living creatures. The Quran teaches that animals should be given equal consideration to humans. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad, in the Muslim writings, said, "It behooves you to treat the animals gently. All creatures are like family to God." And he went on to proclaim, "A good deed done to an animal is as meritorious as a good deed done to a human being." The next candle is for Christianity. Christianity has had many voices over the centuries regarding animals. St. Francis of Assisi, the Catholic patron saint of animals, viewed animals as his brothers and sisters. And similarly, in the Greek Orthodox Church, St. Modestus was also known as the patron saint of animals. In Proverbs 12 and 10, the Bible says, "The righteous care for the needs of their animals." And in the book of Job, it says, "But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall teach thee. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, they shall teach thee. And the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee." So we light the candle in honor of all forms of Christianity. And we light a candle for the Baha'i. Abdul Baha, the son of Prophet Baha'u'llah, wrote, "Then, O ye friends of God, you must not only have kind and merciful feelings for mankind, but you shall also exercise the utmost kindness towards every living creature." We honor the traditions of the Baha'i faith. And the next candle is for the shamanic traditions, the way of the indigenous people, which honors all forms of life, all of nature as sacred. All animate and inanimate objects are related to the divine and command respect. All animals must be treated with respect. And the final candle is for all forms of new thought. In our teaching, we recognize that all is divine and that everything is formed of the same spiritual energy. Animals are no exception, and we truly know that the life that animates all things is the life of God. Now that our altar is lit with the flames of faith, I will remind you of a universal truth that we all know. Animals are not forever. Actually, no relationships are, but we especially feel the brevity of the relationship with the creatures that we love so dearly. So I invite Michelle to light the tall center candle as a memory candle. Many of you are here today and honoring and memorializing a pet that is no longer in visible form. These spiritual connections that last forever, and they continue to bless us, even now. As I call their names, I invite their human companions to stand as I say their beloved's name. This morning we are blessing the memory and spiritual essence of Coquito, Toby, Buddha Bear, Misty Blue, Missy, Sophie, Xander, George, Abby, Oscar, Tootsie, and Emma. Let us take a moment of silence to remember all those pets that we can only enjoy in the spiritual essence of their presence. And let us pray. In this moment, I recognize the presence of the divine love in our hearts and minds. This love shows up in each picture on the altar, in the flickering flames of faith, and in the memories we all hold dear. I am very aware that the animals in the room feel this energy, this love, this divine love that is forever. I'm so thankful for the relationship that we have with our beloved pets, and I know that they live on in our hearts and minds for eternity. And I call Spirit's blessing sweet and good in each memory. And so it is. So now we've come to the time for the blessings of the animals that are with us in physical form at this time, either in absentia, because they're waiting at home for you all to get back, patiently, I'm sure, or they're present with us here in the room today. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the names of the pets that are not here today in absentia, and then I will come around the room and bless the individual owners and human companions, I like to say, and the pets. I have some Rose of Sharon oil from Jerusalem that I would love to put on your hands, and then if you want to touch your pets with it, that would be awesome. I think it just might be better if I don't touch all the pets as I go.
Can you add Dexter to that, please?
Dexter? Dexter's name has been spoken. And Foxy. All right. So animals are God in our presence, and Karen Drucker has a song that we sing to recognize that truth in our fellow human beings. And today I invite Tim and Janet to lead us in singing this song to the many different faces of God that are in the room too. I recognize that God's energy is present in each one of these unique beings, and as we sing the song, I invite you to sing it directly to one of the animals that we will be blessing. Perhaps sing it to one of the animal photographs that are present on plentiful on the altar. Recognize that their eyes are Spirit's eyes gazing back at you. The energy you feel coming from them is the same life that expresses as you. And at this moment, I know that each animal in this room and each animal in the hearts of anyone in this room is a divine expression of Spirit. I know that each and every one of them is infused right here and right now with God's love and light, with vitality and joy. I know that as I anoint each loving human hand, that I'm calling forth a blessed relationship with their beloved pet, and that they continue on their perfect path together from this moment forward. So in absentia this morning, in addition to Dexter and Foxy, I bless and honor Scout. I bless and honor Bodie and Simon and Sylvester for Reverend Allen and Kevin. Scout was for Randy, by the way. I bless and honor Sherman for Susan and Mort. I know Mort loves Sherman too. And for Deb Reedbeck, I bless Dharma and Onyx. And for Teresa and Lori and Lila, I bless Seven. And for Sarah and Gina, I bless Tilly and Willie and Eddie. And for Ruth Ann and Bill, we bless Carolina and Katrina. And for Janet, we bless Lou, Ellen, Tira, Chad, and Cooper. And for Tim, we bless Muffin and Baloo and Mowgli. And the rest of the animals, I believe, are present. So I will come around and bless. And if you want to keep singing Face of God, that would be beautiful. And if your animals, if your kids in absentia, you'd like to be your hands to be blessed, I do as well. And Smudge, do we call Smudge his name?
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are the part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are the part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God. hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God.
So I will close with a written spiritual mind treatment for all creatures, great and small. Divine Spirit God is the one presence, unconditional love itself, master creator of all things great and small. Therefore it is operating in, as and through all of its creation equally. That one presence is operating in, as and through me at all times as unconditional love, as compassion, as peace and joy. As I am one with all that is, then I know I am perfect, whole, and complete. That one presence is also operating in, as and through these beloved animals as perfect representations of the entire animal kingdom. I now speak my word for each animal here, knowing that his or her being is perfect, whole, and complete, well-being itself, healed, whole, and holy. I honor each one for bringing the wisdom of the animal kingdom and the manifestation of the unconditional love of God into our homes and hearts. Their very presence draws us more deeply into the larger circle of life, of the awareness of God's perfection, into the wonder of our common relationship with all that is. As God guides each human companion in the loving care of these animals, I know it teaches them to be a good companion and responsible steward to all sentient beings on earth. I now accept that responsibility, as does each one here. We accept that all that is required of us to honor this divine expression of life with unconditional love, compassion, and joy. And I claim and accept that the love and peace of God is operating right now in the lives of all animals who are beyond this room. For the lost, the sick, the abused and frightened, and that the perfect home, the ideal outcome, well-being, and the highest good for all is upon them now. I claim and accept that the one presence itself, peace and unconditional love, are operating in, as and through their caretakers, fully ready to be revealed in their hearts and hands. I'm grateful for this shift in consciousness, for all that God teaches me through its creation, and for the love that God so abundantly reveals to me through its animal kingdom. I am grateful for the healing, well-being, and peace now vibrating through all animals, including human animals. And I release this word into the universal law of mind, knowing that as I do so, it returns to me already done in absolute perfection. So I give thanks as I bless this word, I let it go and I let it be, and we affirm together. Thank you so much for bringing your beloveds here, and I'll turn it over to Michelle.